Livingston. I am a business and mindset coach, and I work one-on-one with my clients to help them grow, scale, even build, even pivot businesses that they love. I'm very, very big on building a business around work that you love and also enjoying the process of running your business. So if you're only enjoying the outwardly facing work with your clients and you're not enjoying what's happening inside your business, I really just, I want to change that. Let me in there. Let me help. I just think that, I don't know, man. I just think entrepreneurship is way too hard of a job if you don't like what you're doing externally and internally. And not to say that like there aren't days where we don't enjoy it, but I'm very much in the business of helping people find fulfillment in their work, specifically in their business. So if you aren't interested in your own personal fulfillment, if you aren't interested in your mindset in addition to the business and the strategy pieces, you're probably not going to enjoy being in my world. I always speak from both sides. And so you're going to hear that today. That's just what I'm about. I always approach things from both a business and a mindset perspective because I want you to freaking enjoy the process. Let's see. A couple of just quick announcements before we jump into today's topic. Number one, I am booking my coaching spots now for all of Q2. So if you're interested in for all of my start dates for wherever that's April or May or June, I'm booking all of those now at the same time. So if you're interested in working together, even if you're just like thinking ahead, now is a great time to just have a consultation with me, a discovery call. Super exploratory, no pressure. You do not have to like make a decision on the call and sign up in 5 minutes. But it's all about assessing our fit, seeing what it looks like to work together. I can let you know if I can help you. If I don't think I'm the right person, I'm very, very straightforward about that. And I probably know somebody who can, who would be a good fit. So never hesitate to have those calls with me, even if you're thinking ahead, because I am starting to book a little bit more ahead than usual. And let's see, a couple of other things. Let me just I'm going to throw a couple links here in the chat. There's the call, there's the discovery call link. It's also where you can sign up for Think Differently again, and also where you can grab the replays. I now have them all on my website, all of the ones. We've done like more than 20 now, and they're all sitting on my website all together. So there's actually a couple of previous events that I'm going to reference today, and so you can catch all those replays there if you want to catch up on something specific. And then side note, because I think I met almost every single person here inside my Real Connections networking events. If you've not been there, please come join us. And the link is in the chat as well for that. Okay, so today we are talking, wait, did I check all my announcements? No, I forgot one thing. Two things. One, from now on, I've changed my setup here for Think Differently. So obviously you are all live. Because you're live, you're entered to win a free mini coaching session, should you choose to accept it. So the only thing you have to do to enter to win is just to pop something in the chat that says like, please throw my name in the hat, please put my hat in the ring. I don't know, it's all about hats. Let me know that you want to be entered, and I will enter you to win. What I normally do is I take people who joined today, people who join later this month. I have another event like this, and then I'll just draw one at the end of every month. Once your name is in the hat, it's in the hat for forever. So I don't take it out. So I draw, so you could easily, maybe you don't win this month, but maybe you win next month or the month after. So your name is always, did I say your hat? Your name is always in the hat. So that's just my thank you for being here and being part of the conversation. It really matters to me. I really love having people here. So thank you for being here. If you're catching the replay, or if you sign up to join these and you can't make it live, you will get an email. This is a change to our regular process. You're now going to get an email about a week after the event, and you'll get an email with a link to the replay. So if you ever sign up and you can't make it, no big deal. You will get a replay sent directly to you. It's just going to be about a week, and that just makes sure that we have it up there by the time the email goes out. Okay. So today, want to know what the topic is? Today's topic is like a Q1 debrief and what's working in 2025. So the first thing I want to say is I did a year in review for 2024 in December. So it's only been 3 months. So I did one of those in December. The link is where if you click here in the chat, the link is there to go find it to go find the replay. And the reason I'm referencing that is it's only been 3 months. Like, yes, there's new things. I actually have new things to say to you today. It's not a copy paste of that live, but things are changing, and also things don't change that quickly. And so I think if that's just helpful, I still feel like I went and looked at my notes before I set this one up. And I was like, yeah, I feel good. I don't need to repeat a bunch of stuff from last time. I still feel like that still stands. So if this is a conversation that you want to hear more of, I've got so much more to share in that other live. And it's called, I wrote it down. It is called, where did I put it? I wrote it down. It's called something like Year in Review, what to take into 2025 to grow your revenue. It's something like that. It's really clear on the website, so you'll find it. So all of that still stands, but we are going to talk about a few new things, and I'll probably reference a couple of things, but I want to just share a couple of caveats first so that we're like really setting the stage of context and like how to apply what we're going to talk about today and how to not apply what we're talking about today. So a couple of things. This is Laura Livingston's opinion. This is not somebody else's opinion. This is based on what's in my world, right? So a couple of things about what is in my world. First off, I'm a one-on-one business coach. I do study the industry of coaching. I do study the online space. I do study small businesses as well. And when I say that separately, because not all of my clients are running businesses online. Some of my clients, especially in the past, I've worked with actually a good number of brick and mortar companies. And so that's a completely different industry, right? If you're in the hospitality industry, completely different than if you're like only providing online services as a coach. And so I'm not going to try to pretend to speak to all industries here, but I am seeing some common things across the board for my clients. And I just think it's important. Take what fits your business and leave the rest. It's your job now to apply what I'm saying to see like through your filter of like, does this make sense for my industry? Does this make sense for my business? So I just want to be really, really mindful of that. So this is based on what I'm seeing in my business, what I'm seeing in my clients' businesses, which are kind of wide industry breadth. However, most of my clients are actually all at the moment, all of my clients are service providers, not providing products. And so I think that's important to share. And is this true? Almost 90% of my clients are serving either individuals or small businesses, meaning my other client and some past clients, like if you serve a large company, right? If you're pitching to Microsoft, for example, for your services, this may or may not apply in that example. What was my other caveat? Oh, and it's also just based on, I do study what's happening, right? I do talk to a lot of people. I do gather information. As a business coach, I feel like that it's part of my job to sort of be aware of what's happening around us. And so it's also based on that. And this is just my opinion, right? So please take this and apply it. I'm trying to share, I have 3 main things to share today. And the way that I decided on just these 3 versus any other 3 or 5 was I felt like some of the others that I could talk about weren't as applicable across the board. So I'm hoping that these will be applicable as much as possible. But again, I just feel like it's really, really important to share that this is just from my world perspective. And from my world perspective, like almost every single one of my clients either sustained their revenue or grew significantly last year. I had my best quarter ever in Q3 of last year. And then Q1 was one of my best quarters ever. And so I do have something to say. I am seeing good results from what I'm doing to apply the things that we're going to talk about today. And I'm also seeing that in my clients. So it's not like I'm just like spouting out stuff and making stuff up and like, hey, this is just my opinion. Like it's grounded in reality and results that I'm seeing. But I think it's just important to sort of level set there. And I think the final piece to say is so much of what I think my job is as a business coach, at least for me, the way that I approach my work is to help my clients really apply any business strategy, business advice, mindset information that you see out in the world and help them apply or not apply and figure out what actually makes sense in their business. And so as you're thinking about this and as you listen to anything I say, I'm very big on, does this make sense for you? You can ask the similar question, does it make sense for your business, your industry? Does it make sense for the phase in business that you're in, right? Sometimes, and I'm going to try to speak to some of this, but like sometimes what would make sense for you when you're scaling makes absolutely no sense if you're just building, and vice versa, right? So thinking about your phase in business, your season in business right now, what phase you're in, and then does it make sense for you right now, which again kind of gets to your season, but it's also like if you're navigating like a personal life thing that is taking up a lot of your time away from your business, like you have to put that filter. You can't just slap on a strategy or slap on any piece of advice, even that I say, and not apply it appropriately to your business. So I'm asking you to hopefully do that here, since I cannot coach everybody one-on-one. Okay. Okay, and then I've got one more caveat but sort of like setting the stage. And then I'll really dive in and share you my 3 things. But I just think this stage set, context set is important. The other thing I would say is for those of you who are live, somebody's already submitted one question. I'm going to make sure that I answer that. But please, as I'm going through, if you have a specific question, I would love to answer it. So feel free to put that in the chat now. Or if you want to share like what you think is working or what's working for your business, like that's a really cool way to participate in the conversation, and we can start looking at some of those things as well. Again, this doesn't all have to be about me or my ideas. And as I always say, like I could talk about this for 87 hours. I got plenty to say. And I would love for you to be able to participate in whichever way that you would like. So if you already feel like, oh, I like know something that's working, please share it. You're going to be paying it forward. And again, I'm only talking about the 3 things that I think are most important. Like there's a lot of other stuff that's working. Okay. Let me just check the chat. Okay, great. People are throwing their hats in. Awesome. Okay. Okay, great. Okay, I'll keep checking the chat. So again, as I said, my live from the end of the year, I think still stands. I think a lot of what was working in 2024 and what rose to the top there still stands. So please go check that out if you're interested. I want to try to say something new and different today. And I also think, you guys, it's only been 3 months into 2025. And a lot has changed in the world. And whether or not that's going to directly affect us in business, I think really remains to be seen at this point. But I think what's really important in terms of understanding how to apply what we're talking about today, one more way to apply, is I think it's important for us as businesses. Let me backtrack. So I have a master's in organization development, which nobody knows what that means, but it's basically if a psychology degree and a business degree had a baby. And specifically what we focused on and where I spent the first 18 years of my career in terms of consulting and coaching to larger businesses was focusing on how do organizations change and what happens to the individuals, like from a mindset psychology perspective, individuals and teams and departments, and then what happens from a business or a strategy perspective when we have to navigate some sort of change. So I was a change expert, I guess I still am. I'm a change expert in terms of what happens when either you have to respond to something, right? Like 2020 pandemic, shut down, that's the easiest example, right? A lot of brick and mortar businesses, in-person services it was forced upon them, right? They had change to react to and respond to. And then sometimes change comes from within, right? Oh, I like my work, but I want to change it a little bit and serve a slightly different audience. Or, I'm noticing that as I execute this strategy that has always worked for me, like either it doesn't work as well, or it doesn't work as well in this market, or I'm not able to enjoy it as much and I'm not as good at it as I used to be, or the market has changed enough, right? Like if you don't like doing video and you're on Instagram, like that's another obvious clash, right? Instagram has changed, it's promoting, video is like queen there. And so if you don't enjoy doing video or that's not your sweet spot, like that's going to be something to react to. It doesn't mean that you can't still be on Instagram. I am still on Instagram and I'm not doing a lot of video, but it's also not my priority platform. And so that just fits my I can still sort of keep going really without a major change. But so understanding, all this is to say, understanding what's happening around us and what's happening here in the business, and then how to look at what changes need to be made and what changes don't need to be made. And so I just want to give you two simple examples. I think ideally we want to fall kind of in the middle of these two. One extreme example is Blockbuster, right? Blockbuster did not see the streaming writing on the wall of streaming, right? And they did not change fast enough. They could not change fast enough. I have not done a whole lot of studies on them, but that's just, it's one that everybody knows. You don't go to Blockbuster anymore to watch videos, right? We just stick it on our computer or on our TVs and we watch it at home on Netflix. And so they didn't change fast enough, right? At the same time, we don't want to be, I'm just going to use like a social media influencer as an example. And if you're an influencer, so this won't apply to you. But if you're not an influencer, influencers are probably the only ones that need to track algorithmic trends on social media and like track it every single week and know what's doing and making changes, right? They're the only ones that really need to be in the weeds of those details, right? We don't need to change our social media strategy every single week. If we did, that's all we're gonna do. And again, the only people who need to be that good at that stuff and that up on those minute trends are the people that serve people in that area, right? And if we aren't paying attention, so we wanna not be so slow as Blockbuster, but we don't need to be in the weeds every single week, like a day trader in the stock market, right? We don't have to be doing it that way too. We want to just find a healthy medium and healthy balance for us. I hope that makes sense. Okay. So 3 things that I'm seeing are working, and they all have a very common theme of personalization. And you're going to see what I mean by that, but I just want to quickly tell you the answer. There's 3 things that I see that we're going to talk about today that seem to just rise to the top. Again, there's lots of other things that are working. I'm not saying that you have to only do these 3 things or these are the only 3 things that are working. They're just 3 that I'm talking about today. So the first thing, and I've been bringing this up over and over. It's one of the things, I don't know, this is a topic that I feel like it's always a thing because it sort of kicks a lot of stuff up, and when we're looking at our sales process and things like that. So I feel like this is something I'm always talking to clients about at some point over the years, but I swear it has been a topic of conversation more than anything in the last 12 months. It's just over and over and over and over. And it's something that I'm seeing is working really well. It's something I'm doing even more of than I ever have because it's working. And so why would we not do stuff that's working? And so this is personal outreach, personal follow-ups, and personal touches. And let me just start with, I am very big on efficiency. I'm literally got off a call with my VA yesterday where we were going through a couple things in my business and streamlining them and automating and setting up some processes and making them just freaking so much easier so that I don't have to do every single thing, or even that she doesn't have to do every single thing. So I'm very big on systems and processes and efficiency. And in your sales follow-up process in particular, and I'm going to talk about a couple other examples. I just think that's the easiest place to talk about it. Automation is not going to be the fastest path to your next client. And I have some nuances about that. So if you're able to use ManyChat and that's really working for you, especially if you have a group program or some one-to-many service, that's really awesome. And personal follow-up still makes the difference. People, I swear to you, the number of times that people go, oh my gosh, and this is the other thing, this is something that's always worked. This is something that just not everybody's willing to do because it's uncomfortable sometimes, right? It's hard to put yourself out there. I'm going to be the first to admit that. That was not a thing that I was interested in when I first started this business and was like, oh crap, I have to do sales. So it kicks up a lot of stuff. It's a lot easier to do it in sort of a, well, I'll just put out another post and hope that like people sign up for my thing. But when you've already had a conversation with someone, or someone's already expressed some level of interest in your work, or you see someone that you've had, like, let's say you've connected on LinkedIn in the comments and you don't take that, if you take that next step to continue to nurture that relationship, it's just the fastest path to moving somebody through your customer journey, moving through somebody through your sales process, nurturing that relationship in the follow-ups in between, like maybe when they have a discovery call and when they hire you. It just works. I want to say, yeah. So personal. So I'm putting all of these together, but it's really personal follow-up. So if you've a discovery call with someone and you're not following up, or you're not following up enough, and you're not leaning into having that discussion where they're trying to make a decision, like your job isn't to make the decision for them or to like talk them into hiring you. Your job is to help them make the decision, to give them information they need to help them make a decision. If you're a coach, maybe your job is to help them think that through and to really look at what's going on with them around what makes the decision hard, what they're scared of, what they're excited about. Is this the right thing for them, right? So personal follow-up is really from the perspective of your sales process. Somebody's looking at working with you and they haven't yet signed on the dotted line. That in-between process, if I outsource that to my VA, right? Imagine if you, I'm a one-on-one coach, and that's even more important for me. It's even more important if you're one-on-one. It's even more important if you are high touch, even if you have a group program and you offer like really, really like a lot of access to you. Part of what they're buying, a huge part of what they're buying is the you part of it. And that relationship with you is part of what they're buying. Especially for, like, this is true, I think, for all businesses, but I think especially for one-on-one, especially for high ticket, right? These should not be like, I shouldn't just go, am I going to spend 10 grand on a program today? No, I should be discerning. I should think that through, and honoring that process for someone and helping someone through that process, or giving them whatever they need. If what they need is, I just need a few weeks to think about it, like giving them that, whatever it is, following up with that is so important, and honestly, like, is the beginning of your relationship, right? Like, think about online dating, right? Like, if you don't, you have to have a connection and message the person before you go and meet for coffee, right? And you have to have I'm making this up, but like, you have to have a coffee date before you get married, right? And so I think like just honoring the space that you're in, and not like, but are you going to marry me even though we haven't met? You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of that, I know that's ridiculous, right? But we kind of do that to our sales process because we just want somebody to like make the decision. But just letting that be a process and letting that follow-up be part of the process. Again, people can say yes on the call, but letting the follow-up be part of the process. One, you're leaving money on the table, and that's most of the time. One of the first places that I help my clients find their low-hanging fruit is somewhere in their sales process where they're missing something, where they could have a sale or they have a sale pending, and they just need to send a personalized email or get on the call again. Nobody wants to do it, and it works. So I'm just gonna keep like banging that drum and shouting that. I don't know, I feel like I'll die on the hill of like free offers, and I'll die on the hill of personal follow-up because I just think it matters so much. And I was just going to say, imagine if you had a discovery call with me and then I had my VA follow up with you. Like, it's automated, or it's not automated. That's more efficient. You know what I mean? Like, you could argue that that's like sending an email to someone is administrative and therefore my VA should be doing it, right? But like, that everybody's looking at me like I'm crazy, right? That doesn't make any sense. And yet we want to do that because it allows us to avoid discomfort, right? And so much of my work with my clients is really sitting with that discomfort, working through that, practicing things, you know, getting more comfortable with that. And I find that for most people, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but I find that like for most people at every new level in business, whether that's a new income level or whether your business has grown or whether you've moved to running 2 businesses at once or whether you just made your first 100K or whether you start serving like a new, like there's no hierarchy to clients, right? But like if you've been serving like one set of clients and now you've kind of gotten like a higher level client for you, whatever that means, like the next level, like, ooh, this is a big challenge. Like this is somebody I really wanted to work with. This is a problem I really wanted to solve, but it's stretching me a little bit professionally. Like it's my next, like a promotion, right? For you, right? And then like we can't sell to them, even though we could sell to everybody else. And then we kind of like bumble our way through that sales process. Or we're like, well, I don't know, let me just see what they're gonna say, right? Every new level in business, asks us to kind of take that next step in terms of our sales process, in terms of our personalized follow-up. And so I guess what I'm saying is if that's at all a part of your process, or if it should be a part of your process, it's also not gonna go away. It's always gonna be a thing that we need to do. And over time, I think most people have some level of discomfort over time with it. Does that make sense? Okay, let me check. I think there's a couple comments and then there's a couple other pieces to this. So personalized follow-up in the sales process, but there's a couple other pieces to the personalized. Let's see. I met with a coach about a year ago that I absolutely loved but was not ready to work with. And she's not followed up with me once, which really made me lose interest in working with her. Honestly, like, thank you for saying that. I think we all, first off, as people who are in sales, we all need to hear that for those moments when you're like, maybe I shouldn't follow up, right? Like, maybe, no. And I will also say it feels so good to know that the other person wants to work with you, right? Yes, we've all been through like salesy, slimy salespeople, and that's not at all what I'm suggesting here. But it feels really good when it's a match, right? And so that's also the other thing I would say is like, if this person isn't gonna appreciate the follow-up, they're probably not gonna hire you anyway, or they're probably not a good fit, and so they shouldn't hire you anyway. Like maybe, like that might just be a mismatch. But when somebody that you want to work with wants to work with you and they make it known, it feels really good. And it helps you make that decision. Thank you for sharing that. That's, I think, and I will say on the flip side too, I've had clients thank me for that follow-up process. Thank you for supporting me through the decision-making process, right? Again, I think we all have responsibilities or, I think we all have to own the sales process. And if you're a coach, I think that I always feel like if I can't talk to my clients about whether they can hire me or like the hard part of that decision, then how can they bring to me their most vulnerable moments in the business, right? Like that is the beginning of that conversation. Maybe they don't trust me yet, and that's okay, right? Or they don't trust me enough yet, and that's okay. We do build trust in the container. It's not that they have to like share their deepest, darkest secrets with me on a discovery call. But I do think there's something to be said for like being available for the tough conversations. If you're a coach in particular, if you're a therapist in particular, let me lead the therapist because I have a couple of therapist clients and we have to do sales differently. But yeah, thank you for saying, I was just going to say, and I've had the exact opposite reflected too, both to my clients and to me when somebody did hire us, like, thank you for holding me in that space. Thank you for being somebody that was enjoyable to have that process. Sent a follow-up right before getting on this call. Yay. Okay. It makes new music to my ears. I put it on my calendar to do this right after I got off the discovery call with 2 weeks for her. I love that. Yeah. I'm so big on that. The only coaches I've ever hired have done that. One walked with me for a year and a half before I hired her. And thank you for saying that too. Yes, it's a thing. And one of the things that I talked about when I did the year in review for 2024 was that really 23 and 24 saw longer sales cycles. Just generally across the board, I'm not going to like try to create stories. I've also had people hire me in one day, so it doesn't have to be that. But I think if you have a high ticket offer you're generally going to have a longer sales cycle, meaning from when someone finds you or considers working with you or has a discovery call with you to when they hire you, those sales cycles tend to be longer. Every business is different. But one-on-one's going to be longer, high ticket's going to be longer, and then when we're in a buyer's market, it's going to be longer, and that's what 23 and 24 were, and I think 25 still is at the moment. And so all that is to say, why am I saying that? Buyer's market. Okay, what was the last comment? I lost my train of thought. Hold on. Yeah, a year and a half. And so all that is to say, if we were to think that a year and a half, maybe that's not like typical, right? Like I don't want to create a story there either that you have to wait a year and a half for somebody to hire you. And if we just hold space that like there's still a possibility that someone would work with you after a year and a half, then we are more likely to follow up. It's going to be finished. And so I think, I don't know, like if you don't hear a no and someone really said, that's the other thing. If somebody says, I'm not ready yet, but I want to work with you, like, please take that at face value. Some people, that's their nice way of saying no, and that's okay. You'll figure that out. But like, don't let that mean then that you don't need to follow up because they didn't take you up right now. I've done that. I've been on the hiring end of that as well because I'm kind of like an early, like I like to think ahead. And so even when I'm not ready to hire someone, I want to have a discovery call if they're available for it and say like, help me understand how you work. I just want to like think this through so that when I am ready, I know if you're in the running. And also if I am ready, I know how much money and how the structure looks. Do I need to set up time, on my schedule to manage that, how we're going to do this, right? So I think it's just really important to honor all like decision-making processes. All buyers have different ways they want to do it. And just letting that be right instead of making that wrong and saying, oh, they haven't hired me in 2 weeks from the discovery call. They're off my radar. On to the next one. Like, yes, on to the next one. Please have a pipeline and follow up with more people. But okay, I've been following up. I keep going on. I feel like maybe I'm gonna have to do a masterclass just on follow up. I've been following up with someone every few months for a year and a half now. It always feels really awkward to reach back out. Part of me thinks, when is this gonna be too much? However, every time I follow up with her, she thanks me. I love this. This is such important evidence. Every time I follow up with her, she thanks me and tells me how much she appreciated it, how much she appreciates it, and the timing just hasn't been right yet. Yeah, I love that. I updated my CRM the other day, adding old clients, and noticed I had a client on my mailing list for 7 years before she contacted me to confirm a project and start working with me. Staying in touch works. Yes, it freaking does. I love that. I love that. Yeah, I had somebody hire me last year who I met. So she hired me in 2024, and we met in 2018 or 19. Like, and to be fair, I didn't know I was on her list for possible people. Like, we're networking and we've been colleagues ever since. Like, I had no idea that she was interested in working with me. It wasn't like she had a discovery call and I followed up for however many years that is. But again, it all counts. Okay, let me quickly go back to this number one. So it's not just personalized follow-ups, but yes, please do it. It's also personal touch and personal outreach. So personal touch is really unique to you, but like I kind of look at it as like giving people like ways of surprising and delighting people. So whether that's existing clients, whether that's somebody in your audience, something that I did too, like sometimes I'll just give a client a gift when they renew. I always give a client a gift when they renew, but I don't tell them that in advance. Do you know what I mean? Like finding ways to make the relationship more personal. So again, whether they're clients, returning clients, existing clients, renewing clients, new clients, whether they're a potential client and you're following up with them, whether they are someone in your audience. Oh, I was going to say one of the things that I did recently, my birthday was in February, and I just sent an email to my email list. I didn't put it out any further than that, but I just said, I'm going to give away a free coaching session. I'm feeling, I did it for Valentine's Day, and then the next week I did it for my birthday. I just said, I'm feeling generous and I want to coach somebody. So like throw your hat in the ring. And if you hit reply, tell me that you want your hat in the ring and tell me what you want your coaching session about. And I'm going to give you that. And I did. And then I did it again the next week because it was so fun. So I think just finding those ways to make it personal, right? Like ways to impact your audience that they're not asking for, they're not expecting. that personal touch, those, if we're going to just speak strategy, like that speaks to the nurture section of your strategy, right? There's like reach, nurture, and conversion that really nurtures your audience. And I don't know if the person who won is going to hire me, but they might, and they might in a year, and I'm not going to be sad that I gave them this support. And they're part of my network, and supporting my network is part of my job, I feel like. Not to say that you have to give everything away for free. Okay, and then the other piece is personal outreach. So again, back to like reach, nurture, and conversion. Not saying you need to go sleazy, slide into people's DMs that you don't know and give them some canned AI written like, hi, how are you doing? I'm not suggesting that. And there are ways to reach out. Like you can also, I was working with I have a client who we just put a new workshop together for her that she's doing for one sort of client. And she's like, okay. And so then we're like, great, who else can we pitch this to, right? So she's reaching out cold to people to find another place for her workshop to live, other people who have audiences that make sense for her. For her workshop, right? And so that's a personal outreach, right? But she's not, spamming and like sending all the things, the emails that you delete, and hit spam on your Gmail. Like it's a, hey, we have a connection in common, or, hey, our audiences are similar. I'm doing this thing. I saw that you're doing that thing. This is what I'm doing. Would you be interested in having a conversation, right? That is also working. And again, I just think I don't know. I feel like one of the things that was on my list last year that I haven't talked about yet is like so much of what's working is just people who are willing to do what other people aren't willing to do. Or let me say it this way. Are you just willing to do what most people aren't? And I don't mean outside of ethics, outside of appropriate activity, right? I just mean, are you willing to put yourself that much out there, right? Like that follow-up that you mentioned of like every month or every quarter that you send that follow-up for the year and a half, you feel awkward, but you do it anyway. That's putting yourself out there. That's taking that extra step forward. And I think that's what's working, is just being willing to do that when other people aren't. And again, because not everybody's doing, one, it's working. Enough people are doing it for me to be able to say that it's working. But two, because not everybody is doing it, people take it as such a surprise. I will say I've had a couple of people who wrote me back and said, wow, before I finished, like I didn't get that it wasn't, I thought that it was spam until I got to like the second or third I thought it was spam until I read like the second or third sentence or something. And that's okay, great. Maybe I could like change my hook, right? Or maybe I could change my subject line but it's okay if they think that. That's not what I was doing, right? And it's kind of like, I don't want people to think that of me, but I'm also willing for people to think that of me so that I can go reach out to the people that need me, to the people that I'm meant to work with. Like that's just like at some point, people like you can't like change people from there's always going to be haters, or there's always going to be people who aren't comfortable with you, and that just needs to be okay because they're not your people, and your job isn't to serve them, right? Your job is to serve your people. Okay, let me see if there's anything else about personalization. Yeah, and please like apply this to your business again, right? Like if something, hopefully something that I've said around this, you're like, ooh, I could do more of that, or I could start doing that. But I'm not saying that you need to do all of these things. I'm not saying you need to start like now going to give everybody a gift and like everybody free stuff and follow up 14 times a day with your people, right? Please don't take this too far. But again, this is about finding those ways. I think so much of business right now is about finding the ways that you can just tweak and adjust and keep doing more of what's working. Okay, number one was personalized stuff, personal outreach, personal touch, and personal follow-ups. Number two, you're going to sense a theme here. Number two is putting yourself in your content. Putting yourself in your content. So sharing stories about you versus like the 5 things you need to do to blah, blah, right? 5 things you need to do to blah, blah is also great. But when we only share information is now just so readily available, right? Like we can chat GPT it, we can Google it, we can blah, 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 right? And so what's really, and this is not new in 2025, again, this is something I could have said about 2024, but I just feel like it's so much more important now. And it feels like 2023, this was the case, 2024, this was the case. And I just feel like it's even more now. People want to know who you are. They want to know who they're hiring. Like, look at all the boycotts. People are changing their buying preferences based on values, right? Which is my third one. Secret, like, what do you call it? Spoiler alert. We really do care who we buy from. And again, that's always been the case. That's not new, but it's just so important now. It's just rising to the top, and it's really, really, really important. And so when we put ourselves in our content, it lets people know who they're buying from. It lets them see that you're a real person, right? 3-4 years ago, you could kind of get away with like a little more impersonal and a little more like, let me tell you why I'm the greatest thing at my thing. And now, because we've had so many coaching industry in particular, like we've had so many gurus knocked off of their, pedestal. We've had so many unethical. I love the coaching industry. It's not going anywhere. I love the coaching industry. And just like any industry, there are people who are acting ethically and unethically. And so we've just had sort of a string of that. And so people are now like, that's what was going on behind the scenes when you told me this. Like, no, right? And it just turns people off. And so it's really, really important. And it's not just about coaches, but it is really important to share who you are and to be able to let people see not everything. You don't have to overshare, but like let them see a little bit behind the scenes in terms of what you stand for, who you are. So putting yourself in your content, I'm just going to quickly share a few ideas here. Thought leadership, right? What's spicy? What do people who do what you do, what are your colleagues putting out in the world? And again, I'm not trying to like have you poop on your colleagues, but like what are people in your industry saying? What advice is going out there that you just disagree with and why? And then write content to that, create content to that. Let people know what you really think, right? I literally think I said this at the beginning of today, which is if you're not interested in like, I don't know how I said it, but if you're not interested in becoming a better person, in learning how to be a better CEO in general so that you could run any business better than you can today, if you're not interested in looking at, your limiting beliefs in the way that you are getting in your own way of your business, then even if we align from a strategy and business side of things, and even if but you're probably going to hate working with me if you don't also want to become a better person and want to look at, the mindset piece of what's happening for you in business. And so, right, it's important to say that. It's important to let people know about that so that they can make their best decision. And I think it's really, they say like good marketing attracts and repels. And I just think that is, again, this is just something that's always been the case. It just seems to be rising to the top. What is your hot take? What is your I'm so annoyed because all the business coaches say this and I just don't see it that way, right? And again, you don't have to write content and say like everybody else is wrong and I'm the right one, but use that as inspiration to say, this is what I think. You've probably been told X. Here's what I think. That's what's working. It's saturated in terms of how many people are now running small businesses. It's saturated because the algorithm has changed, and it's saturated because AI is out there putting out stuff, right? And so again, if what you're putting out, social media and your email, is something that AI could write without knowing you, right? Without you telling it about your business, or without you, I'm not saying you can't use AI, please use AI, absolutely. But if what the final product is could have just been written by anybody, or could have just been written by AI, or could have just been thought up by, then it's probably not spicy enough. You probably need to take it to the next level. Okay, well, what else? How else could I make this more me? Because the rest of it, we just read one sentence and it looks like everybody else's and we glaze over and we just move on, right? We're just not, we're not even getting to sit down and read the stuff. So I think that's really, really important. Yeah, and a couple of other things that actually I think I'll leave for another time, but just some other ideas. I did a live a few weeks ago about what to do when content feels hard, and I gave a couple of suggestions there, and a lot of that is really advice around how to. Some of that is included of how to make it more personal, but again, putting yourself in it. I feel like in 2020, like if you wanted to put a piece of content out, it was like, hey, you need to blah, blah, or hey, this is how it works. And now it's like, hey, this is what I had to learn to grow. In my case, like to grow my business, right? Or this is what I had to go through, or here's the thing that I love the most about running my business, or whatever the thing is, right? But like telling that story, personalizing it, putting yourself in it, and then also turning it back around. And it's not like you're writing a Dear Diary, like it's also turning it around and giving your people value. But that's working, right? And so a lot of times, I've had a few clients come to me like second half of last year and the beginning of this year where what had worked for them from a marketing perspective just stopped really working in the last couple of years. And that's one of the things that we're going back and doing, is just really tweaking how they put their content out there, what they put in their content. Because it just worked differently before and it works differently now. So put yourself in your content. And then finally, values, which is also, again, all of this is about you. All of this is about letting people know who you are. I'm not going to jump into a bunch of politics, but what I will say here is the world is changing, whether you're an American or not. And I think what I see is really working is not people that are not people that are talking about politics when politics has nothing to do with their business. I'm not suggesting that in any way, shape, or form, unless that's just something that you want to do. Please do you. And I think finding a way to express to your audience what your values are, and maybe even what your values aren't, depending on what this is and I'm not gonna go too far into the weeds because everybody, again, you really have to take this one and apply it for you. This is really about your comfort level. I'm not trying to say you need to get political. And people's values are the number one reason that they're buying right now. In the greater scheme of things, people are choosing not to buy from big companies because of their values, or to buy from big companies because of their values. And so, again, it's not any different for us. And I think especially if what you're selling is a service, is a working together, is a relationship-based service, letting people know what your values are is only ever going to help you. And again, like, my values have been on my website for like 6 years. Like, it's not in different ways. Probably yours have too. Like, it's not about, again, needing to be like, this is who I voted for and I'm mad at this person and blah, blah. I'm not trying to say that. But I do think if we go back to the Blockbuster example and we aren't paying attention at least to something that we're putting out to let our audience know either directly where we stand or generally where we stand in terms of values, at some point, not maybe yet, but at some point we will start to be a little tone deaf. Because if we're only especially, and again, it depends on what you're doing, right? And I'm going to share a very specific example. There's a few most people have heard these people, authors, I'll just say authors. I have 3 in particular that I'm thinking of. 3 authors that I am a huge fan of, that some of them have very similar backgrounds, like academic backgrounds to mine. People I have followed for many, many years, who I look up to, I appreciate. They are popular names. Many people know who these people are. And I've only seen one of the 3 speak directly about what's happening in the world and speak to us about not what they think, but like how we can think about it and how we can react to and respond to it and how we can live our life, because all of these people are helping us live our best life. And I feel like it's a little tone deaf, and I want to hear from them. And so again, you have to figure out what you need to do as a leader, as a thought leader, as an expert in your field, whether it's appropriate or not for you to comment on world events. That's a completely unique decision, and that's not what I'm saying. And if you're not also sharing what your values are, somehow it may start to look like you're not aware of the world events, that you're living in a bubble. And what I am seeing a lot is there are a lot of people looking for support right now, given what's going on in the world. And there's a lot of opportunities missed. Again, I'm not trying to say go capitalize and make money off of people's pain, but we are in the business of solving problems. We are in the business of helping people have better lives. And like, we want to seek pleasure and avoid pain, right? And I think not speaking to reality of how people are feeling is going to, at some point, it's like you don't have to be the influencer, right? You don't need to be shouting from the rooftops what you're thinking right now politically. And at some point, if you're not addressing it this year, I think it's going to probably like be harder and harder for you to connect with your audience, because that's a way that we connect, and that's a way we attract and repel, right? And I will also say one other thing, and that is, this isn't about who you have, like choosing who, like, please, like, how do I want to say this? I'm being so mindful of how I say this. One, because I don't want my video to be taken. I want you guys to be able to see the video. And I know they're being stripped for certain words. How do I want to say this? I think what I want to say is, if we're going to be personal, if let me back up. I think one of the biggest things that's going on right now in the world is that we're losing trust. We're losing trust in world leaders. We are losing trust. We lost trust 2 years ago in the coaching industry, right? There was like a little correction reckoning with the coaching industry. We are losing trust. This is sort of like, I'm stretching it a little bit, but like when you look at the content that's online, and there's so much AI, it's almost like we're losing trust. And I don't know about you, but like sometimes I'm just like looking for like, where's the human? Where's the actual person in there? Something that I can connect to, right? I call my networking real connections for a reason, because we are looking for real connections. We are looking for trust. And I love that we've got AI. I've loved that our society is advancing the way that it is. And humanity is always going to be humanity. And we're always going to want that human touch. And so that's, again, kind of the general purpose of what I'm saying today with the personal outreach, right? Like being a human in your content, and then finding a way to share your values that feels comfortable to you, because that will build trust. And we are in an environment where I've been joking with my clients lately, like that whole know, like, and trust factor. One, I think trust is just number one right now, if you had to pick. But I always joke with my clients, like, it's okay if you don't like me today. Like that, I just need you to know me and trust me that I'm going to tell you the truth. And then if I tell you the truth and you don't like it today, I'm joking a little bit, but if I tell you the truth and you don't like it today, we still just have the relationship that maybe you'll say, let me think about that. That feels crunchy. Let me think about that, or let me just take it in, and then we can have a process conversation about it, right? So you don't need to like me in that moment if I'm telling you something that you don't want to hear. But I think, again, it just comes back to, yes, no, like, and trust. But if we had to pick, like, gun to your head, if you had to pick one of the three, I just think right now, with everything that's going on across the board, it's not just current world events, I think it's just so important that trust is just so much more important than anything else. And so if you lead with your values, if you put put yourself in your content, and people can see that and feel that, and it doesn't look generic, right? And if you're following up with your leads, or you're reaching out to people and trying to connect as humans, that's just going to work so well. I'm not saying also don't use AI. I'm not saying don't use social media. I'm not saying like don't use all those other things, but it's like at the end of the day, if we went back to 1800s, business is people, business is relationships. And it's like, the more we can just get down to those simple foundations of business and find ways to apply it in our modern world, that's just what I'm seeing working. Okay, I said a lot of things. I see a bunch of comments. If you're live and you need to go, please go. I will not be offended, but I will stay on for a few more minutes and read through these comments and answer questions. Okay, let's see. Where did I leave off? I just sent off 2 gift session invites this morning. I love that. I used to think that maybe this would be poorly received, but if I received a gift like this from someone, I would love it. Yeah, absolutely. I'm a big gift giver. giver too. I love that. Wish to past client happy birthday yesterday. No expectation from her that will lead to further business, but it felt like the right thing to do. She was so touched that I remembered when her birthday was. 100%, right? And like, let's say she never comes back. Like, that you have a relationship, right? And you don't have the same relationship, that you did or whatever, but like, it's never going to be a bad thing to let someone know you're thinking about them. Like, that's just human, right? Human. And this all serves your business, obviously, but it doesn't have to. I really love that. I really love the thoughtfulness of that. Yes, as human design people, we also know when everybody's birthday is. I love that. Benefit of having the dates. That's two human design people talking to each other. I love that. Okay. Oh, and I did have a question. Thank you for asking this question. Could LinkedIn serve as an additional platform to reconnect with clients or leads where opportunities exist? Yes. 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 Should I say it again? Yes. Yes. I just relaunched the blog on my website, yay, with the intention of sharing personal stories. Beautiful. I love that. Yeah, I mean, people just want to get to know you, right? Like, they just do. True, I loved your How Well Do You Know Each Other newsletter. Oh, good, thank you. And it's the one that made me like you even more, and it's made you more memorable. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for saying that. Thank you. I was refreshing, side note, I refreshed my welcome series, updated it. I hadn't touched it in years. And I went through and updated it and set it up, automation for when you join my newsletter or when you join my email list. And then I was like, there's a lot of new people on here that don't know me very well. And I was very much sharing who I am in that message. And so I just sent it to my whole newsletter too. So thank you for saying that. We need to stand for and be transparent about what we believe in. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think, 10 years ago, I would have said, like, keep your politics out of it. And what does that have to do with anything? But I think, just side note, I think the fact that it's so polarized in some ways is good because you kind of can't stand in the middle. Like, you can't really stand in the middle. Most people were like, yeah, I knew who you voted for. You didn't need to tell me. Like, I just know who you are. And that, again, it's not about that, but it is a little bit like the polarization actually makes it easier because it's probably already obvious where you stand anyway, but there is no middle at the moment to speak to. So I just think that actually like helps us be more transparent. I think when we put ourselves in our content, we will more naturally lead with our values. Yes, exactly. And I really struggled with how to make those separate. So yeah, they do very much go together. Yeah, have to head out. Okay, yes. You're welcome. Inspiring, thank you. Really enjoyed this and took plenty of notes. Yay, good. I love the notebook writing. Okay, let me just share this one other question that I got for the person who submitted this because I know they couldn't join us live. And this was a really specific one, but it was, do you have thoughts on shifting offers to a shorter duration? I'm seeing a lot of people move from Voxer days, I'm seeing a lot of people move to Voxer days instead of longer programs. So I just very quickly, because I don't know, I'm assuming this is more for like a group program or a course sort of model. I think in general, like, the program has to be the length of time that you need to effectively create a result, right? So I have a longer program, right? Like, let's use 6 months as an example. I have a longer program because I just know that it takes a minimum of 90 days to see any kind of tangible results from a strategy change. Not always, but like to see the amount of results that you can then, I'm going to say it more like this. If you're running a scientific experiment on your business, you need at least 90 days to start to generate the data that will give you enough data to start going, okay, now what do we do with this? And so with that, and just how I know that human behavior takes time, it takes us time from a mindset perspective to change. A few months is just not enough time for me to feel like I can affect real change with my clients. And so that's why I work with them for 6 months. And so even if the trend starts to change, I'm not sure that I would change that. So I guess what I want to say is, if you're running a group, if you're running a course in particular. I will say I am seeing one of the biggest challenges with both of those models, and I have lots of clients in these models. One of the biggest challenges, and this has been the case for many years, but it's kind of a growing trend, it's getting more and more, is people aren't finishing, right? So they're like gung-ho in the beginning, and then they have a harder time finishing. And so, yes, it may mean that your course is too long, right? And so, yes, I think attention spans and just we're learning more about adult learning and all of that. And so I think, yeah, it may be too long, but not because doing a long program is bad. It's just that I think more and more people are realizing that that model it's too long for certain things, right? I'm using 6 months as an example. So that it's really hard for me to answer that question. My real answer is it depends, which I know is really infuriating, but I don't really, without having like a specific person's business in front of me, I wouldn't advise you either way. Because I just need to understand that it's not a fair, I can't give you a fair answer. But those are the things that I would think about. And I think some of what I see going on with that is also like, oh, high ticket is dead and you should only do low ticket. Well, people have been saying that for years and then they say the reverse the next day. So like, you just need to pick the business model that works for you. They're all working. But I think, yeah, I love a good Voxer day, and I love that support between sessions or between calls if you have a group or whatever, or additional support. What I am seeing in courses is when you add personalized, goes with the theme. When you add more personalized support, it doesn't have to even be a one-on-one, but when they have access to ask questions, to get like, well, you told me this, but like, how do I apply it for me, right? If you can give them some sort of support, people that is working really well, and people are staying in programs, they're getting better results and those kinds of things. So that's a nice add for Voxer, and that's a great strategic way to use Voxer as well. And the person is not live to answer the question, but let me know, whoever submitted this question, if that doesn't answer your question, hit reply to the email with the replay and let me know, and I'm happy to answer it if you had a different take on it. Okay. I'm going to check the chat one more time for those of you who are still with me. I ran super over, but I just felt like this was such an important conversation. I have to go as well. Thank you so much. Reconfirmed what I'm doing is going in the right direction. Good. And inspired me to personalize more. Yay. Good. And same. Okay. Good. Yes. The personalization, man. I'm not going to shut up about it. It really matters. And look, if you want some help applying this to your business, right? If you're like, some of what you said, I don't know how to take it down, right? To real life and to put the feet on the ground and to do the thing. Or if it's tough for you to do that personal reach out, like whether that's comfortable for you or not, I would love to support you. So just book a discovery call if you want to talk about working together. I have a 2-week option and a 6-month option, and both of those are available for this quarter. So you can pick what works for you. And I'd love to talk to you. And we will be back next time. Can I remember what this? Oh, next time is the mindset that changed everything for me in business. And it doesn't really exactly go with today's topic, but I think it's something that has served me. It served me in the beginning of my business, and then I kind of dropped it, and I brought it back a couple years ago, and it was a major game changer for me, because I think it's a mindset or a question you can ask yourself that really applies every year in business, like any new level, anything that you're doing, it applies to all. So I hope you'll catch me for that one, and I'll see you soon. Thanks.
Recording stopped.